Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy show, and we have another incredible guest on today. So excited. I've been looking forward to this one for a while. I got his information about a month ago. And I just love interviewing incredible people who have accomplished great things and have decided to turn around and share their knowledge and their experience with the people coming up in the ranks, right? There's a lot of people who experience success and they never share it. But I'm always grateful to the people who have experienced something and turn around and say, hey, how can we help the next person up? And that's really what this show is about, is how do we help you fuel your legacy? How do we help you accomplish the best out of your life and experience the most happiness, joy, and fulfillment? So that's what we're focused on. Now, Herb, he's been in the industry of, just all types of things, but primarily scaling companies. He's built multiple companies and has helped multiple companies become successful and be scaled up. His favorite topic is the best way to scale your business is with more impact and less drama to develop a scale up CEO mindset. And so how do we develop that CEO mindset? And this is my hidden secret, right? I said hidden secret. It's going to be public now. But I'm excited to help transfer the CEO mindset to every aspect of our lives: the faith, the family, the fitness, finance, fun. Yes, it's applicable in business. Of course, it's applicable in business. That's what we're going to talk about. But how does it relate to every other aspect of your life? So that's what I'm excited. And that's where my questions are going to come from primarily. But Herb, go ahead and talk to us about where you came from. Where'd you grow up? What was your family life like? What got you into this desire to be in a chief executive operation position to really master a skill? And then why are you turning around and sharing it with others?
Yeah, first of all, Sam, thank you for having me on the show. And I really look forward to hopefully sharing some value with your listeners as well. I was very fortunate that I grew up in a family business and knew at a very young age that being an entrepreneur, having the ability to set my own direction and help others improve their life and their outcomes was something that immediately resonated with me. And I knew I wanted to spend the rest of my life figuring out how to do that better and impacting more people. So being brought up in a family business, as you can imagine, that was around 54 years, you learn a lot of things about legacy. You learn a lot of things about changing, adopting markets. You learn a lot of things about professionalizing a business to go from a lifestyle company to more of a performance-based, professionally managed company. And there were so many valuable lessons along the way. But somewhere along that way, we had plateaued. The complexity had maybe gotten more than we could handle. The leadership team was not developed enough for what we needed. And ultimately, the business started to stagnate. That's really what drove me into uncovering the mindset, the traits of a scale-up CEO, and how could I go from a business owner to a scale-up mindset, which would enable me to double my cash, triple my profits, and 10x the valuation of the companies that we run. And that was really an amazing journey. And I want to now help share that journey with others that are feeling that same struggle. Imagine starting your company because you had a dream to be a business owner and to share your gift with your business, with the world. But then that dream ends up turning into a nightmare. You're dealing with payroll. You're dealing with the bank. You're dealing with disgruntled employees and unhappy customers. And now the business is running you, versus you running your business. And we want to help people change that. And that's really why I'm here.
That is awesome. So what part of the country were you raised in?
Yeah, so I grew up in Massachusetts. I've been here my entire life, but our business operations span throughout all of North America. And I currently work with clients that are all over the world, in Australia, in South Africa, in the Philippines, in Romania, in Canada. And it's truly Scaling Up is available for everybody.
Sure. And so what was the primary family business? Like, what was the type of widget or product that you were in originally that you tried to scale up and just didn't quite, but you found yourself plateauing?
Yeah, that we were in the staffing business and adult education. So everything we were doing was trying to help people have meaningful employment or being trained better to have even more meaningful employment than their current occupation.
And yeah, that in and of itself is something that is a global problem, if you want to call it that, right? People go to school for years. They spent tens of thousands of dollars to get a degree, and then they come out and they aren't really qualified for the work that's at hand. So
yes.
Explain that a little bit. Like how much does what you were doing in that early business conflict with the higher education that, there's a lot of money on that side of the world. Do you feel like it worked hand in glove, or was it more of like an alternative option sale to the consumer?
When we first began in about early 90s, Microsoft was putting all this software out, the Microsoft Suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Access, all that great stuff. And there was a talent shortage. I had great people with great attitudes, but they didn't have the computer skills that today we take for granted. Every kid is working on applications, even now from 3rd, 4th grade. But back then that wasn't the case. So as an entrepreneur, we had a talent skill shortage, and the education business was formed to get good people computer skills and then take the computer skills and bridge them to all the available open jobs that were coming up in the market.
And so it's possible that even inside of higher education, there wasn't really courses and things designed specifically for this, or that you're bringing in people who have already been out of higher education for a while, but want to remain up to date and marketable in the marketplace.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, if you were in the workforce in the 80s and you're in sales or you're in marketing or finance, every one of those jobs, as computers were becoming more accessible and widespread, required the use of a spreadsheet, the use of email, the use of keyboarding skills, the use of PowerPoint or Word. So even if you didn't have the best job, all the jobs were requiring complements of these intensive computer skills. And there was definitely a need. We saw the need early, and we wanted to get out in front of it and get more of those great people to the clients to help them.
And so was this, the family business, was this a creation of your parents, or was this a creation of you seeing that at a young age and seeing that coming up and you driving it, or were your parents driving it and you just were along for the ride of that company?
Yeah, the staffing company was from my father, who formed the company in early 1966. And the education and the add-on was from myself, and I have wonderful brothers that were partners with me in the firm too.
Awesome. So I think that those are all these questions. These are the things that kind of lead to, you already have a business that's doing it. How can you add more value inside of the business, inside of the culture that you've already created? How can you continue to add more value? And are you right now, it's not Excel, Word, it's not those things, but it's AI, the same revolution, and maybe at an expedited and exponentially expedited rate is AI, coding, and learning those skills and those languages to maintain profitability and really competitive ability in the marketplace, whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee. You're going to have to learn these tools. Your children are already learning these tools. We've all been interacting with these tools. A friend of, I say a friend, somebody that I just hired as a mentor, he said, he coaches people on how to make money online, like set up through automation. And so I need to learn some skills, right? I'm not against learning and I see the value it's going there. But he says, look, the common thing that people, their excuses for not making money online is they say they don't know how. And he says, that's not true at all. You, in fact, are great at making money online. Anytime technology tries to stop you from letting you put your credit card information in or whatever, you'll find a way to make money online. The problem is that you're making somebody else money online, not yourself. So you're already an expert at making money online. The question is, how do we help you become an expert of making you money online rather than making somebody else money online? It's like, that's a mindset shift, right?
Yeah.
We're already experts. We just have to learn how to turn the expert nature into our own favor rather than somebody else's favor. And so that comes with continuing educated, never being scared to level up your skills or your development there. So I think that's awesome. And then at what point, like what was the time in your life when you saw, hey, this is a talent to skill gap, this experience like drove it home, there's a talent to skill gap and we need to add this to our company? Like what was that experience?
Yeah.
Walk us through it.
I think any good CEO is looking at the data. And although emotionally we had jobs that were not getting filled because we didn't have the right people with the right computer skills to fill them, but we looked at the hard data and we looked at the amount of orders, the frequency in which they were coming, the particular skills that were actually being called in, and we weren't hitting the mark. And so initially having that emotional, hey, I think something's going on, to getting into the weeds and looking at the real data and seeing that the data wasn't going away. It wasn't a blip, but it was continuing and it was growing and clients were asking and nobody initially had the solution. And so I think a lot of times as a CEO or an entrepreneur, it's not only having the intuition, but it's really getting the data to confirm and then having the guts to take action and be a first mover.
Yeah, I think the guts are a big thing, especially when you already have a company that's relatively successful and you've kind of been living that success for a while. I mean, Blockbuster, I think, is probably one of the best examples of the failure to do this. Toys R Us was another one that they just didn't catch the vision fast enough. They didn't understand what was going on behind the scenes, and they wrote it off as a fad. And I would just encourage you, when you're listening to her, when you're listening to anybody who's on the cutting edge, don't think it's a fad. At least give it the credence to say, I'm going to learn about it. That doesn't mean you have to use it or employ it all the time, but don't stick your head in the sand when it comes to technology. The technology is coming. If you just saw what happened with Apple, I mean, they've been talking about these goggles, augmented reality for decades. And yes, the price point is high with Apple's new Vision goggles. It's high right now. But give it 2 or 3 years, that price point's going to come down and every household will have one or more. Like we're 4 or 5 years away between Ready Player One. It's crazy how fast that stuff moves. So talk about this, like the idea that you mentioned of transforming from I wrote hobby to a business. I don't know if you use the word hobby, but there's a point at which you have to realize that you cannot manage. If you want to continue to grow, you have to step into a position of leadership and oversight and start directing things more intentionally than if you just want to continue the status quo. So talk about is there even a point at which that happens, or would it be better off for everybody to start with the end in mind?
All right, so there's a lot to unpack there. Let me see if I can help. So many of us business owners begin with a lifestyle company. we have a skill, we want freedom and flexibility, we want to help people, and we can call the shots. We don't have a lot of employees, but life is good. Nothing wrong with that. But there is another type, which is really a performance, professionally run company when you're starting to go 5, 10 million plus, where now your success cannot be dictated on your effort, your intention, your IQ. You have to depend on many others for your company's success. The more people you hire, the more clients you bring on, the more locations you open, the more products you offer. Think of the exponential complexity of being able to manage communication and decision-making between all those elements at the same time. And there's a reason only 4% of companies in America ever make it over 1 million or more in sales per year. 4%. A lot of them is by choice because it's a lifestyle choice, a 1 or 2 or 3 person company. Nothing wrong with that. Do you realize the ones that make it to 10 million? Less than 0.5% of 30 million.
Yeah,
so owning a company and having it provide you an income and a livelihood is very achievable. Scaling the company is not easily achievable.
So with that, because I think that you're bringing up some good points about the difference and contrasting. I like how you're contrasting between lifestyle and performance professionally run. In America, whatever reason, I don't know why they decided this was the number, but less than 500 employees is considered small business, which I think that's for most businesses, they're like, as you mentioned, 3 or 4, and you can go do 10 million to plus. I mean, you could probably go do hundreds of millions of dollars worth of sales and still be in a small business category. So how can we, I think that there's a lot of skills that you're employing at the professionally performance-driven company that are still 100% applicable at the lifestyle company. And you would be happier and have a better lifestyle if you employed those elements, even if you don't ever intend for it to become this massive, massive company. You could still employ those same techniques at a 1, 2, 3 person company. And that's kind of the idea of the E-Myth revisited by Michael Gerber, is like identifying those roles and being intentional with what role you're fulfilling in those areas. So maybe talk a little bit about how you can use those same skills on a lower level of decision-making, even if you don't have as many people in your company.
Yeah, so about 500 employees, that to me is like a mid-market company, right? So you have the large Fortune 2500, so to speak, but 500 is quite a few people, and you absolutely have to have a level of leadership that supports the CEO or the head of the company. So 2 things. Number 1, to have a scaling up CEO mindset. Are you truly growth oriented? What I mean by that is, do you know what your industry growth rate is? And scaling up CEOs minimally want to double it to the point where we want to be doubling revenue every 3 years, or doubling or more every 3 years. Now, that's not an easy thing to achieve, but they have a bias to take action to build a company with that type of growth plan. Number 2, are you a coachable learner, Samuel? When you think about it, it's what you don't know in life that normally trips you up. Have you ever met a CEO that was kind of a know-it-all, that kind of been there, done that? I've done 10 companies, I've made millions. Congratulations. But it's the next company that's going to matter if it's in a space or in a group or a market dynamic that maybe you haven't navigated before. And are you always learning and willing to look at things from a different perspective? The scale-up CEOs absolutely are coachable learners. Strategic thinkers, being able to know when you need to pivot, knowing what's happening for the market in terms of politically, economically, societal changes, technological changes, environmental changes, regulatory changes. Are you seeing those patterns? And can you do two things? Can you pivot to a place where people will value your offering? And critical number two, will it be distinctive in the marketplace? Because if it's not distinctive, you're a commodity. And we've all been trapped in that as we look at our company's growth. Fourth thing, are you execution accountable? It's one thing to have a goal, but do you personally get things done, or do you talk about others not getting it done? So are you accountable for execution? Are you willing to 100% top grade your team to all A players? And can you teach the team underneath you to have execution accountability and be willing to top grade in their teams the same way? Not everybody will do that. They have friendships, they have loyalties, they have long-term relationships. Nothing wrong with that unless it's preventing you from growing your company. And a lot of times it does.
Yes.
And then the final
life in a lifestyle company, you've built your dream life with all your best friends. But if your best friends are not helping you hit your goals, sometimes that's hard. That's a hard decision to make.
Very
and you hope that people understand it, but they don't always understand it. And you have to determine what is your core value and what do you want more than anything. Do you want the friendships, or do you want to have a company that's ultimately going to provide a better lifestyle? So it's kind of an interesting thing there. Anyways, not to interrupt you.
No, and what happens, Samuel, you end up holding on to people and you end up regretting it more, which people will definitely notice. They end up feeling that their work is less valuable or contributing. They feel it, and you ultimately lose either way. So why not be transparent? Why not be caring? Why not look for a soft landing? Maybe it's a different role in the company where they can be the right person for the right seat. Or maybe it's helping them to a different place where they can, and ultimately you stay friends and colleagues. But it's a win-win at the end of the day. And it takes courage to do that. I
think that's been the hardest part for me is I've sought out and brought people on and had them go, is you don't want to lose relationships. And when you're ultimately saying, hey, it's time to, part ways or whatever, for whatever reason, parting ways business-wise doesn't mean parting ways friendship-wise, but some people take it that way. And you have to be okay with the worst case scenario and confident that you're moving forward regardless, and then hope for the best case scenario in those types of relationships, but be confident that your choices you're making. So it's an interesting, delicate balance. And it happens in families. That happens in every area of your life. If you have a decision and a vision of where you're going and the life that you want to live, I think, as you said, being transparent, communicating that with care and love and desire for growth for everybody involved, and doing your best to share that, whether it's in a marriage or with your children or in a religious setting, whatever it is, being clear and transparent, hoping for the best, but being resolved and absolute as far as what your destination is the only way I've been able to square it inside my soul, is to know hey, this is where we're going. And then sometimes leaving it on them saying, hey, do you really feel like you can provide that level of commitment to the vision? And if you can't, that's okay. I still love you. I still care about you. But if we can't get there together, then it's time to find another place. And that's not because you're bad or wrong, but because the vision demands other people to fulfill that role right now.
Yeah.
Learning how to have that conversation is something I'm very open to learning. It's a tough one.
Yeah. And then the final Scale Up CEO mindset item is really effective communicator. Are you clear? Are you consistent? And do people always know where they stand? Do they know where the company's going? Do they know how the company will get there? And do they know the behaviors in the ways in which we'll work with each other to get that done? There's nothing worse for an A player than having a CEO that kind of changes the game all the time. Yesterday, we were going to do it. Today, we're not going to do it. Next week, we're doing something else. This week, we're back to what we were going to do 2 weeks ago. That kind of inconsistent, unclear, unaligned communication that really bothers a really productive A-player team member. And I think CEOs, we can all do a better job at being better, more effective communicators, but scale-up CEOs are all effective communicators.
Yeah, they have to be. So those are like identities, those 5 things, being a truly growth mindset, coachable learner, always learning, strategic thinker, and an execution, having an execution accountable mindset and way of being, and then being an effective communicator. Let's say somebody wanted to work with you or learn more about how to do that. What are 2 or 3 questions that you would start out asking them, like, hey, here's a way to determine where you're at? I'm a big believer that life is like a GPS, and success definitely is, where you have to identify where you are before we start trying to identify where you want to go or the pathway to get there. We have to be clear on where we currently are. And so how do you help the people who come into your purview identify where they are, not tell them where they are, but how do you help them identify where they are so that then you can then start casting this vision of what a scale-up CEO is and how they could become one? Because most of them, I'm assuming, they don't come into your office as a scale-up CEO, or they'd already be doing it. That would be my assumption.
Yeah. They're absolutely wonderful, but they come almost like partially made. They have some of the traits to some degree, but not enough of all of it yet. And they want to become the complete package. And there's 2 things that we do, Samuel. Number 1, I will talk with them and actually ask them questions about the 5 traits. So, for example, coachable learners are very self-aware. So when I ask them, Samuel, let me read the 5 traits to you. What do you think is your self-assessment on the 5? People who are really self-aware will have a very good assessment for me. The people who are not will have a short answer, will not know, will be confused, or just not want to answer. And that automatically tells me they're not number 2. I look at the track record of their history operating companies. That tells me if they're growth orientated. If they've been running a company at 10 million a year and it's been 10 million the last 3 years, that would tell me something. Right. So that's one way of using the traits in questions in like a dialogue with the CEO to help them diagnose where are you at, and more importantly, where do we need to get you to? The second way we do it is I have a scaling up assessment, which is deployed to them and their senior team to give them a state on how healthy their company is for scaling up and where their gaps are. And we get a score of 1 to 100. Typically, most companies come in, believe it or not, between 35 and 50 the first time they do it. And our goal is to kind of take the meat off the bone, and how do we get from 50 to 60 to 70 to 80 to 90 so that they're going from good to great.
Sure.
Which I think is what this is about. Most companies I talk to are not bad companies, because bad companies don't want coaching.
Right.
Good companies who want to be great normally want coaching and development?
Yeah, I was talking to somebody. So I have a few clients who have kind of made it their life vision, actually very similar to my life vision. I want to help people, avoid a lot of the social issues, anxiety, depression, suicide, domestic violence, divorce, suicide, all these things, right? So on one hand, I want to help people avoid that. But I don't message my company that way. I don't say, hey, I'm calling everybody who wants to avoid all these miserable things. But there are people who, some of my clients, they have set up their company, and their vision for their company is to help people who are suicidal, and they want those people to pay them coaching dollars. I'm like, somebody who's suicidal, most of the time is not going to tell you they're suicidal.
Sure.
And they definitely don't want your help. By the time they're that far gone, they don't want your help. And frankly, running from suicide is just a way to attract more suicide. Like, no offense to anybody who's suffering from that, but the truth is people want the carrot. They don't want the stick at that point. They want more connection. They want more hope. They want more love. They want purpose. And so you can have the same objective or goal, but approaching it from a perspective of what do you actually, I think we lost him. Well, maybe he'll come back. Maybe it died. Well, we're doing great until then. Let's see what his plan is.
Hi, my just laptop shut off. I'm very sorry.
Hey, no, it's all good. No worries. And I was just saying, like, people, they want purpose, they want passion, they want joy, they want connection. And so when you're messaging this negative message, those people are not interested in coming to get help. But if you message what they actually want, then those people are going to come. So as to your point, the people who have already decided they don't want to grow, they're not going to show up at your coaching door. But the people who are ready to grow and do want to change, they may not know how to. I'm somewhat surprised it's as high as it is, frankly, on that grading chart. If you're getting 35 to 50%, in college, my psychology teacher, she said like the best test she's ever written, 50% of the people pass. Like she's trying to work it down to where the majority of the people will absolutely fail it. She only wants about 3 to 5% of a class to actually get over 80%.
Well, Samuel, you know what else happens? They come in and the business owner can sometimes feel overworked, sometimes under rewarded.
Uh-huh.
And also they feel like they're holding a lot of risk. They have the entire business on their back, payroll, contracts, liabilities, and yet there's not a lot of safety net for most entrepreneurs when they're trying to grow. And so they're doing good, but nominally not good enough that they're still not overworked. They're probably working 5, 6, 7 days a week, 8 to 12 to 15 hours a day. And yet you and I know sometimes when you're growing, you're reinvesting money back in and you don't have a lot left for you. So you're under rewarded in what the efforts you're really doing, and yet you're holding 100% of the risk.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, there's got to be a better way. And there is. And that's what we work with the Scale Up CEO mindset and the Scaling Up Performance Platform, which is the framework that the Scaling Up CEOs use with their team to grow with more impact and less drama as they do it together.
Yeah, I'm curious with that. So I love those resources. I'm curious if you have somebody take it when they first come in. Do you ever have them take it like 2 weeks later? Like, so that I could see the bell curve almost going, like starting wherever it starts. Then as they start to discover how much they don't know, see it go down and then have a more sharper incline up as they start implementing what they have. But I bet their self-concept, so they think they're doing okay. Even some of the most self-aware ones probably still think we all think we're doing better than we are. Not because for any other reason other than our perspective or our frame of reference, we might be doing better than the other people we see. And so we might think we're doing better than we are, Yes. And then when we start to see that there's other potentials in all the opportunity zone, then we start to go, oh man, we've got so much to grow on. And then once we start implementing, then it takes off and you can get up to an 80, 90, maybe 100% confidence level of where you're at.
So what happens is they normally take it and then we immediately get together and review the answers. And what happens is their scores can go up because not everybody's on the same page. So once like HR may be aware of certain practices, the person in finance or operation doesn't even have a clue the company's doing it, their score's low. So we do the baseline. We then get what I would call a little bit of a bump because of now we're on the same page and we all know what the whole entire company's doing. And then I redo it every year with every company because we got to be charting that good to great progress. And we should be growing in that assessment each and every year.
Yeah, I mean, those key indicators, it doesn't matter what your metric is. Obviously, you have your metric to accomplish your end goal. I have metrics in my team. And I have some business partners right now where they don't feel like they've been growing that much. They've been striving, they've been learning new skills. They don't feel like they've been growing that much. I said, hey, well, this is why we track our numbers. So I pulled up their numbers and showed it just in the last month, 2 months, and they struggled for about a year. And then they finally, about a month ago, decided that they were worthy and that God was going to help them accomplish their objectives. And their effectiveness, I mean, it's so funny, the things that hold us back. And I say funny respectfully to anybody who's being held back right now, because we've all been there. But as soon as they made the decision, I'm going to be successful because it's my birthright, essentially, to be successful and to win and to serve and to bless people's lives. They became 300% more effective in one area, 400% more effective in another area, and something that previously they had just not ever been able to accomplish. They went from that to 75% of their interactions were following through to the next level.
Wow,
and it's like simply because of a mindset shift. And they still, because they haven't reached the end goal of being proficient at the end goal, they still feel like, well, we haven't grown at all because we still have none of the thing that we're looking for. And it's like, no. Let's put in perspective how far you've come from a decision to be, in your words, in a decision to be coachable, a decision to have growth mindset, a decision to be always learning. It's not even that you're not doing it necessarily, but you have to decide that that's a value of yours or an identity that you're going to take on. And that's why I said in the beginning, these are identities. Somebody could have a growth mindset and not know it. And the fact that they don't know it holds them back because it's just not something they believe is part of their identity. But as soon as they think, no, this is who I am, their production increases. And it's so interesting how identity can play such a key role in growth. How have you seen that happen in your business coachings?
Well, one of the things that drove me to it is that we had this nice company. We had been around for years, and we had some really great A players working with us. And even though the company can be doing fine, one thing that I learned about A players, they all want a bigger future. So what really drove me to this sooner than later was that I may be okay if I do nothing, but I'm in danger of losing all my A players because I'm not giving them a bigger future for them and their family. And once that awareness came, hit me right between the eyes, status quo was not acceptable. And that drove me, along with our incredible leadership team, to put together a plan of bigger futures for all of us. Mm-hmm. And so that was kind of the impetus for me. If I'm in business by myself and life is good and it's a lifestyle company and no one's complaining, nothing wrong with that company. But the minute you start adding 12, 20, whatever employees and they're good A players, you're going to have to think about a bigger future for them, or why would they stay?
Sure. Well, I think, again, what part of my objective here is to relate this to every aspect of our lives, because I think that a legacy is more than just a business. And a legacy really is a lifestyle. But with the lifestyle, if we take this concept that you're discussing right now and turn it into like a lifestyle conversation, even if you're the sole employee of your business or you're the sole operator of your business, people sometimes think that their clients and their team are different people, okay? Or their stakeholders are different, right? They have all these different names for different roles. I think that if you're a religious person, like you're in a religious setting, the people following you, they're your employees, quote unquote, right? They're the people who are subscribing to your thing. And even if you're a solo entrepreneur and you have clients, if you start looking at your clients as ambassadors for you, and although you don't pay them, you don't have them on your payroll, if you start treating them in your mind as ambassadors and start building up a vision of what you're providing in the marketplace to them and communicating that to them, they won't be able to help it. They will become your ambassador. Doesn't mean they're going to ever work for you. Doesn't mean they're ever going to be your, like on your payroll, but that's what Apple is so good at. I think Apple is, I don't know of a better company, frankly, other than Apple at this specific skill. Tom's had some pretty good marketing, but I feel like they've fallen off. Nobody really talks about them anymore. But Apple is consistently creating evangelists out of their client base. They don't have to pay a team of people to sell their product. They're getting a team of people, a world of people, to buy their product and go sell it. I mean, it's just the coolest thing what they've accomplished. But every business owner needs to think about that thing that you're mentioning. We have to be able to cast a bigger vision, because that's the only way to actually leave a meaningful impact. And it doesn't matter if you're doing it for your employees or for your clientele or for your followers or for your children and your wife or your spouse, whatever. That element of leadership, I think, is applicable in every area of your life. You have to learn how to be a vision caster.
Samuel, one of the other great examples is, think of you and your wife, and think of sitting down, finding this person that you want to spend the rest of your life with, and then having this bigger vision of a shared future. Do or do we not want children? Where do we want to live? What vocations do we want to support each other in? And as you're going down this road, your vision becomes more refined, more compelling, and yet dealing with ups and downs and challenges together. So by sharing the same values, by looking at purpose-driven ways that you want to live and act and conduct your life in a great relationship, that's how you build a great marriage. I've been fortunate. This September is 34 years, 3 wonderful, amazing children, and even learning about how to raise children. Nobody ever gave me a book. Where do I want to live? What's the crime rate? How good are the schools? What's the job market? What's the house price? All these are great examples. And to become a scale-up CEO, you have to have the right mindset with the right tools, the way you do going into a good relationship personally, with the right mindset, the right tools, and the ultimate vision that's compelling for all of you to want to get to together.
Yep.
And if you could do that, you have a high probability of doing something really great.
Yeah, I completely agree. So let's say somebody's listening to this and they are in that position where maybe they think they're a 50%er on your identity list, although they haven't taken the full survey, so they may not know. But how would they engage with you if they wanted to reach out, just get a little bit more from you? Is the best place a website, social media? Like, where do they go to get a taste of you and then determine whether it's good to move forward or not?
Yeah, simplest thing to do is my website, aspiregrowthadvisors.com. You can take advantage of the Scaling Up assessment. You can also take advantage of a growth kit, or you can also schedule a call if you want to learn more, talk about your particular journey, and ultimately the vision of where you get to. And I'm happy to help anybody with an initial conversation. And it's just been a pleasure being here today with you and your audience.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. But I just want to put this out there. When somebody's giving you free resources, I feel like a dead horse on this sometimes, but if they're giving you free resources, do the free resources. Show up. If you're going to take somebody's time, Herb's going to give you that time, him or his team is going to give you that time out of the generosity of their heart and because they actually want to help people grow. Obviously, they want to get business and they want to help you take the next steps to success. But take the surveys, do the things to make sure that you're showing up and you can make the most out of their time and yours. Don't waste anybody's time. Time is the one resource that we haven't figured out on this planet how to regenerate. We can get new water, we can get more money, we can get just about everything else. But time is precious. Don't waste yours or Herb's or his team's. Leave it for the people who want that. So just go take the quiz. It can't take that long. It's not going to take you 4 days. Just go take it. Prepare yourself so that when you get on there, you can give them, say, hey, this was my scores. What are some actionable things that you're going to help me with so you can have a good idea of how to move forward and really get the most value out of scaling up your business. Fair enough?
Wonderful. Thank you, Samuel.
Hey, well, thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you guys next time on the Fuel Your Legacy Show.
Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.